Hey guys, I'm Nate Turner, and I'm still working on a name for the YouTube channel. It looks like I'm reading something off a piece of paper above my laptop because I am. After watching my first few videos, my girlfriend kind of told me I should give an intro, so here it is. Again, Nate Turner, programmer from Las Vegas, living in San Diego now. That's my girlfriend. Been a professional programmer for over 5 years and have done everything from iOS development to internet gambling applications like online poker and things like that. This channel is all about teaching you how to code professionally. Look at the thought process that professional programmers take when building applications. We program in any language. We're polyglot programmers. And this segment, we're going to be working on a money management tool that we've been building in the last 3 segments. Think mint.com or you need a budget. So far we've built a basic front end in React, just a simple budget, income and expense sheet. We built the API with Symfony and Doctrine, and we've saved our budget models to the database of Doctrine. Now it's time to take a minute and load our budgets from the database so that we can actually save our budget and load our budget. So let's dive in. Thanks for watching, guys. So again, here's our budget. We've got an income section with a few income items, and expense with a few expense items. We still haven't even done the totals yet. We're going to get to that later. I've got 2 programs open that you're going to need, both from JetBrains, PHP Storm and WebStorm. The front end is a React application. Looks something like this. We've got a budget component. It loads the budgets from an API right here that we've got hosted locally. And our API is a Symfony application. The main gist of it is all here. Basically, we've got a save budget action that we created in part 3 of this series, and basically all we do is we post some JSON, we can save the budget, we send a success message, and then we have the get budgets action, which is what we're going to implement now. Right now we've stubbed it out with some mock response data. We've just got income streams and expenses. So what we want to do now is take a budget that we've saved in MySQL, and those budgets look like this. Basically, our budgets are really simple. All they have right now is an ID, and our income streams have an ID and a budget ID that that contains, and it also contains information on the amount of the income, the name, and the frequency that we receive those incomes every month. Let's also take a look at the expenses schema. We'll use the describe command for that in MariaDB. Maybe expense. Yeah. Expense is similar to income stream in that it has an ID and a budget ID. We just don't have a frequency because I don't have any expenses that are charged more than once yet. Maybe we'll add that in later, and we'll show some like refactoring methodologies to make that work well with the income stream. Alright, so let's get going. So we want to take this budget that we've saved to Doctrine, or to MySQL through Doctrine, and load that up in our get budgets endpoint. So what we need to do, is get our entity manager, and we need to get a repository. So Doctrine has these services called repositories. I'm just going to copy this here. Get repository, and I believe the syntax for this, okay, so we just give it a class name. So we want to find our budget. So we can go ahead and just copy the fully qualified name for our budget. Oh, that's weird, that doesn't close anymore with that. And just paste it in right here. That's our class name. I think if we take a look at this, it's going to say it gets the repository for a class. Yeah. Maybe we can find some implementations. Yeah, I think we've done it right. Now we've got a budget repository here, so we can call that budgets. And Doctrine creates these these methods on the repository. Find. So we want to go and just find. Let's just try and find a budget with an ID 1 and see if that will work. I don't really know if it will or not at this point, but we'll see. So we need to take our budget domain model and map it to this associative array here so that we can return it as JSON to the front end. So what we're going to do is take income streams. We're going to use map, and we put the function first, so income stream. And then we want, well, and I forget the syntax every time I do this. PHP is so weird. Okay, and our semicolon here. So now we've got an income stream. That needs to be type hinted for basically so we can get code completion in our IDE. We need to add a getter to our budget class because we don't have a way to get the expenses yet. We only added setters, so we're going to add a function called get income streams, and all that does is return our income streams. And I'm going to type hint. I'm going to add some information about the return type so that our IDE knows how to autocomplete some of the available methods on the income stream, or the budget and the income streams. So this returns an array of income stream. And another thing we could do is add this here for future use. This returns an array of expense. So then we're going to reuse this code, get expenses, that returns an array of expense, and boom. So you see that how now the IDE detects that this is not going to return an array of expense, this is returning an array of income streams, so that helps us. Yeah, see, this gives us the option to change our return type here, and that's all because we've type hinted here. But instead of changing the return type, we want to change the value we're returning to expenses. Alright, so now we can call get income streams. And now we want to map this way. We want this value from our income stream domain object here. So key is going to be ID, and the reason we have this key field here is because of React. React needs a field name key as a prop for any collection that we iterate through in the templates for whatever reason. We need to add getters for all of these fields. So what we can do, I think, is click Alt, add getter. I wonder if we can do whatever. So I'm hitting Alt Enter here in PHP Storm and add getter. But what I'm going to do first actually is I'm going to say what type of variable it is so that my IDE doesn't get confused. And this is name is a string, frequency is an integer. So now let me show you what happens. So see how this says returned mixed here right now. So some other class or service that's calling this getID method isn't going to know what getID returns. But now that we've type hinted ID here, it says it returns an integer. Ooh, and it even did the return type hinting for us there. So that's just a way to make coding easier and make your IDE a little work for you. Frequency. Why didn't frequency work? That's a little weird, but let's see if that works. Yeah, so there we go. So we've added our methods here that are going to get everything for us. Let's go back to the budget controller. So now we should be able to call income stream getID, and that's going to give us an integer name, or income stream get name. And you can just as well make the fields on the income stream, the ID, name, frequency, and amount fields public, and just call them directly. I see a lot more getters in PHP for some reason, so I'm going with that. Get amount turned mixed. We don't want that. We want that to be an integer. Maybe that's what we want there. Maybe it doesn't like that we called it integer. Maybe it wants int. Anyways, so this is going to map our budget income streams to this associated array here, or this format. So let's do the same thing for expenses. Gonna use map again. We can just copy everything here. Instead of mapping over the income streams, we want to map over the expenses, which means this guy is going to be an expense. And we need to go and rip off all these methods that we added to our income stream. We want these in our expense. Normally I would go and add the that var annotation here so that my IDE knew what these were, but I'm just going to leave it at this for now for brevity's sake. We've got the return types on the getter method, so that's what we're going to be using here, so whatever. We don't have a frequency for expense, right? I don't know why this isn't complaining. Oh, because we need to get rid of our get frequency method in expense. See how this is complaining here? Field frequency not found in expense. We knew that, but fix that. So now this is complaining here. Get rid of that. We're going to rename this to expense. Don't want to be sloppy. Anyways, now we should be able to work with this now. And expenses. Obviously this is unreachable because we're returning here. One tidbit here, I'm adding this comma at the end of the last item, and this is for source control purposes. So if you use source control like git, basically when you're doing a diff between two versions of a file, say we wanted to add another field to this JSON response, say we wanted to add a field called totals. Well, if we add totals and there's already this comma here, we're only adding one line. So all you're going to see is an additional line in the diff. But if we don't have this comma here and we want to add totals, we need to add a comma to this line. So that's modifying this line. And then we need to add totals. So that's a modification and an addition. So the modification usually looks like a deletion. So it's going to be 3 different lines in the diff that just because we didn't add the comma, so it's 2 more lines than you need, and it just helps when you have somebody else code reviewing you or something. It's nice to leave this comma here at the end for the next guy. Anyways, let's see if this works. It might not, but we'll see. Nope, didn't work, and that is because, let's take a look here. Parse error, syntax error. Alright, I forgot semicolons because PHP likes those, and it said that was on the income stream class. I thought, right? Income stream on line 63. Yeah, I think what's going on here is that this PHP version we're using doesn't have return type and thing. I don't know why. I think our version of PHP on this needs to be set back to 5.6 or whatever we're using. Let's see what PHPV tells us. What we're using 5.6 right now, so really we should probably be using 7. Maybe we'll upgrade in a bit, but okay, now it's not gonna help us return type hints, but that's okay. Okay, let's see if that helps. So we're still failing here. Argument 2 should be an array. Budget controller on line 75. Budget controller on line 75. So income streams right now, even though we've type hinted, or we've said that the return type is an array of income stream, it's not. It's actually an array collection, I think. So we need to go and call to array, and this array collection is a Doctrine class that helps you sort and query collections returned by Doctrine. I don't ever really use them except for inside of implementations of these entities. So we're going to return an array just to keep it simple. It's a simple PHP array, and this array map can take a PHP array and use it. So maybe that'll work now. Alright, so there it goes. It looks like we've got something. We formatted incorrectly, and the reason is this isn't JavaScript, so we need to name our fields in this associative array here. Expenses. There we go. Cool. So now it might just work. Hey, look at that. So this is actually loaded from the database. It looks like for some reason our income streams and expenses are exactly the same. So we need to figure out what's going on there. I think it's probably a copy paste issue here. But oddly enough, it's not. Let's go take a look in the database and see. Okay, so we're storing these incorrectly. So last lesson we made this an endpoint that lets us save our budget, and our expenses are listed here. So our request is correct, but it looks like our implementation of that persistence endpoint, the save endpoint, was incorrect. Can you guys see the problem? Let's see. Set expenses, set income streams, this expenses. Okay, there we go. Copy paste issue. So this should really be expenses here. Let's save a new one. And this time, in our save endpoint, I want to add the budget ID field. Let's just say budget ID, budget get ID. We need to implement this field. Add add a method, return this ID, returns an int. There we go. So now we'll be able to get our budget ID after we've saved it for the first time. Let's go ahead and do that. So let's find our curl request here. So we're going to curl that request, which contains our expenses and income streams for the budget. And now we've got this budget with ID 6. So we're going to, right now we've got this hard-coded, but we're going to try and load the budget with ID 6. And that should be, or it should contain expenses here now. Yeah, there we go. Alright, we fixed it. Cool. So now we've loaded our budget that we persisted from the database, and we've saved that prior. So now I guess we can implement the front end portion of this. Let's keep it simple. We're not going to do any kind of user authentication for now. I think we'll just add a field here that lets us say what ID budget we want to load. For now. So let's go ahead and jump into our front end code. We're in WebStorm now. And let's add that field to our budget. So I think really this belongs outside of budget. So we're going to stick this in app. And we're going to add an input field. And I don't remember how to do this in React exactly. I think we're probably going to have to look. We're going to add an input field with a placeholder of budget ID, load a budget, and then there's going to be input field, and then we're going to put a button with an on click, and we need to add, whoops, load budget on click. Right, so let's add a text this and go. So in theory, I don't know why the indentation's all weird here. In theory we should see, oh yeah, load budget. So what we want to be able to do is click 6 here and click go and load our budget. So budget is going to get a prop now. Because we fetch our budget through the budget component here, we're going to take our prop, a new prop. So how do I pass a prop? So we want to click go. Maybe we should include this here in the budget, as much as I don't really want to. I don't know. We'll think about this, but for now we're going to put this budget ID field in the budget. So on click, I want to call load budget, fetch budget maybe, and we need to be able to get the input field there. So React using input field forms, React.forms. Form on submit, this handle submit. Guess it wants us to use a form. Let's see. Yeah, so we'll just do it the recommended way here. Take this, put a form here. Load budget. We're going to load budget on submit of this form. The load budget with ID, and the value is going to be null for now, but I think budget ID on change, we're not going to do anything. We're going to wait for the user to submit. We're going to call this go. So let's see if that looks the same as what we had before. Yep. Let's add a space in between here and there. So load budget with ID, and then we need to add this budget ID to our initial state. And I don't think we need to do this. This is more of just it's a nicety for other users. So when they come in and take a look at this budget that we built, say you have a friend that wants to join you on this project, they can see real quick what the state object looks like without any values filled in. So they can see, okay, there's a budget ID here. I need to take that into consideration when I'm working in here. So we're going to load budget when submit is pressed here. And this input field is now bound to this state.budget ID. So we want to call, we can go and grab that budget ID, and I think this is how we, oh no, we can pluck that out of this state using this syntax here. So now we have a local variable budget ID that we can work with. We need to modify our fetch budget to take a budget ID, and we're going to pass that along as part of our request. I think we'll just pass that as, I think we can just put that right here. So I'm going to change to using backticks here so we can interpolate this value into the string. And I don't remember how, there we go. So this is going to place budget ID in our URL right there. So when we call fetch budget with the budget ID, it's going to put our budget ID from that input field right here in the URL. So let's call fetch budget with our budget ID. And instead of doing this when the component mounts, we're going to do that only after load budget is called here. Let's take a look, see if this all works. Value prop on input should not be null. Consider using the empty string to clear the component or undefined. Okay, so this needs to be an empty string. Always take a look at these messages in your console just to keep things clean. So let's just call, let's use 6 here. Whoops, whoa. Yeah. Pop 6 into here. Okay. That's not working. Interesting. What was that error message we had before? It says value prop on input should not be null. Consider using the empty string to clear the component, or undefined for uncontrolled components. Let's try undefined. I don't know if that's going to make it any better for us. Yeah, there we go. So now I can put an ID in here. Let's click go. Do we need to explicitly prevent default? It looks like we do. So by default, when you submit a form, it's going to refresh the page in the browser, and it's going to actually send like a post request or something to your browser. I think this might actually be it. No, it's not. It's just Webpack stuff. So what you do to prevent that, and instead allow your front-end code to handle the form, is you call prevent default. We're going to do that right at the top of our load budget function here. So instead of submitting the form through the browser, we're going to just handle everything ourselves, and we're going to load something from the back end using Ajax. And of course we need to pass event. There we go. 6, go. It's complaining because it can't read state of null. This state, so this is not bound in this instance for some reason. So what we want to do is bind this, I think. So bind here, when you call a method with bind, so this is a function right here, this load budget, and we're calling the bind function on that function with this. So this is obviously equal to this whole component here because it's the same as the parent or the owner of load budget here. It's going to be this. But now that binds this inside of the scope of this function to this. So let's see if that worked for us. 6. And what do you know? We got somewhere. Still, that's undefined, our state, for whatever reason. This state budget ID. So we need to figure out why that is, but we did go ahead and try and make the request. Need to figure out how exactly we handle or get this value. So I'm going to put some debugging code in here. And let's see what's going on. Alright, so this is what we can see is this is a budget. That's good. This state, okay, so the budget ID is still undefined even though we set a value here. So something is not quite right. Okay, event.target.value. Okay, so it looks like we need this change event, which is kind of annoying, but I guess it makes sense. That way, in this way we can really see what's going on. So every time this input field changes, we're going to call a function to set the state. So change budget ID, that has an event, and we're going to call that every time this input box changes. Change budget ID. We do need this here too, so we're going to do bind this. So event.target.value, was that what it was? Event. We're going to do exactly this. So every time this input field changes, we're going to call this method with the event, and we're going to set our budget ID to the value of this field, which is, the field is target here. The event being passed to this change budget ID contains the field and the value of that field here. So let's see if that did it. So now when we type 6, budget is changing an uncontrolled input of type text to be controlled. Input elements should not switch from uncontrolled to controlled. We don't know exactly what that means yet, but maybe. So let's check our state. Hey, look, this state has budget ID now. If we take a look at this state, we have budget ID here, and let's see if that gets sent to our backend. Sweet, it did. So if we take a look, the request is formatted exactly how we want it. So now we need to go back to our API here, and we need to fix the get budgets route to include an ID. And I don't know the syntax for this anymore, so we're going to go to Symfony routing and find out how we pass an argument through the URL. And it's this right here. So in our route, we just use this syntax to define a variable that we want to use. This variable is going to be budget ID, and then we add an argument called budget ID to our get budgets action. And see how we're finding this budget by ID here? Instead of this hard-coded 6, we're going to call it with the budget ID. So with that, we should actually be able to load our budget, I think. Uh-oh. Still not quite right. No route found for get budget 6. We might need to add that. And if that doesn't work, then we're going to try clearing the cache for Symfony. I don't know. Okay, cool, that worked. Alright, we just had to be exact and include that trailing, this trailing slash here at the end of the route. We've got, we're now able to load our budget from our front end. So if we go to 5, I think this is going to be different. Yeah, there we go. There's our incorrect budget that we saved with our income streams accidentally as an expense. So here it is. So now we can load a budget. We're still unable to save the budget. I'm trying to think of how exactly we want to do that. Let's see, how long are we? We've been doing this for 38 minutes. I think maybe we'll take a pause for now, and then in the next segment we'll go ahead and save the budget to Doctrine. So thanks for watching, guys. In this video, again, what we did was we took the budget that we saved to MySQL with Doctrine, and we loaded that dynamically with its ID from our front end. So in the next segment, we're going to save our budgets, modify and save our budgets, and then we should have a working budget app that lets us save our income and expenses. After that, we'll probably work on some of the totaling stuff and actually make it look good with some style sheets and things like that. So stay tuned, guys. Until next time, thanks for watching.